Let's talk region basketball. And we back. Welcome back to the Get Buckets podcast powered by Holiday and Basketball. I'm your host, Musa Moretti. Let's get straight into it, man. Starting with the Spartanburg area 5A teams. Right now, Burns and Gaffney both tied as a 1 seed in their region. Then you have Dorman and Spartanburg tied for 3rd seed. Lastly, Boiling Springs as a 5th seed. Let me get into the details real quick. Now, Burns versus Gaffney on Tuesday night this week is going to be a thriller, man. I mean, these two teams have been playing really well. Burns has been handling everyone in their region. I thought them versus Dorman would be a nice, good game, but Burns handled them. And, I kind of believe it might be because Dorman did have to play a very tough game versus Greer the night before. But nonetheless, Burns handled business. But I still think this can be a good game. Gaffney did only beat Dorman in overtime, but they're still winning games. And they're playing really well. Ricky Littlejohn, only a freshman, he's been playing really well. Almost had 2 back-to-back double-doubles, maybe triple-doubles, really playing solid lately. Markel Hollis has looked solid, and he can go off whenever. So if he goes off against Burns, anything can happen. Kazan has been playing well for Burns. I know he had a very solid, 21-point game versus Boiling Springs. So he's been playing well. Moving on, Dorman, they're doing solid, but they did lose their last 3 games this week. They were all very tough games, playing Greer on Monday, then having to play Burns on Tuesday, and then playing Gaffney where they lost in overtime. So all these games just, trying to finish down the stretch, I think is going to be their biggest thing. And I'm really looking forward to the game versus Spartanburg this Tuesday. I believe they should handle business. Spartanburg did just get their first region win this past Friday in a 2-point win versus Boiling Springs. But even with them being tied, I feel like Dorman, if they handle business, should win this game. I know Dorman lost their 2 out of their 3 games this week in very last possessions almost type games, but I think they can handle business. Last thing to talk about in their region, Landon Sprouse can't carry Boiling Springs to the playoffs. Simple as that. Right now, Boiling Springs is 0-4 in region. Hopefully they can turn it around. I don't think they have kind of a tough schedule every week. They are the bottom seed, so I'd say they have a tough schedule every week in their region. But, hopefully they can get a win soon in their region. Moving on to the Greenville 5A region, T.L. Hanna sits at the 1 seed. Woodmont and Malden tied for 2nd place, and then J.L. Mann / Hillcrest tied for 4th place or, 5th place. They're both 0-3 in region. T.L. Hanna basically been dominating everyone in their region, winning by 10 or more every single game. They were playing for, first seed the other night against Woodmont. They won by 11, I believe. So every night someone seems to be going off on T.L. Hanna, and I really like the way Lucas Wiersma has been playing for them, playing really solid and as the big man for T.L. Hanna. But the game to watch, Woodmont versus Malden this Tuesday. Hey, let me just tell you, this Tuesday has a lot of good games in store. But Woodmont versus Malden will be the game to watch to see who is the current 2nd seed in their region. Drake has been playing solid for Woodmont, I've been hearing. I know everyone's worried about Dre Huff right now. He's been playing well all season. So while they're worried about Dre Huff, Drake has been able to, get to his spots and do a little bit more on offense for them. I do want to remind you that Dre did make the game winner a few weeks ago against J.L. Mann, though. They've been winning in close games. The 2 games they did win in, that they did win, was, I think, a 1-point win versus Hillcrest last Friday and then a 2-point win versus J.L. Mann earlier that same week. So they've been winning some very tough games. But at the same time, Malden has won their last 2 games. They won against J.L. Mann, and then they won against Hillcrest in a double overtime thriller this past Friday. And I feel kind of bad for Hillcrest, man. Losing by 1 to Woodmont last week, losing in double overtime to Malden this past Friday, it's been rough for them. But nonetheless, Caden Coleman's looked like a very bright spot for their team. He's been playing excellent. And another Tuesday game that y'all should keep out for, J.L. Mann versus Hillcrest this Tuesday, to see who will be able to get into the playoffs. Obviously, they still have to play all the other teams again. We're only midway through. But this could be a game changer for each of these teams' season. Like being that 4 seed gives you, confidence to make the playoffs. You don't want to be the bottom seed in your region and then have to go play teams like T.L. Hanna again, Woodmont. Even though they are all close games, it just gives you more confidence. So J.L. Mann versus Hillcrest will be a huge game on Tuesday to see who can get their first win in region. Also want to say Tez Walker for J.L. Mann. He's been playing solid as well for J.L. Mann and steadily improving throughout the season. Lastly, though, I want to talk about the Greenville 4A region. Right now, Greer and Riverside are tied for the 1st seed. Lawrence and Eastside are tied for the 3rd seed, and Wade Hampton is at the bottom. Greer versus Riverside this Tuesday as well. Y'all gotta, at this point, it just depends on which game you want to go to. But Greer versus Riverside this Tuesday will be the game to watch, I believe. These two teams fighting for the 1st seed. It's going to be interesting to see. Greer knows how to finish games down the stretch. You saw that against Dorman. You saw that against Greenville. But Riverside knows how to handle business as well. They beat teams like Powdersville. They beat Eastside this past week. They know how to handle business. Drew Cannon has been playing really well lately. Although I did also see Sabi got the game belt after they beat Eastside, or no, after they beat Wade Hampton this past Friday. So they've been handling business. Their chemistry, very good, very good. That's all I can say. But excited to see that game, especially. You got, what people would consider the dogs over out in Greer. All those guys play very hard all the way through the game. And you got the more fundamental way playing basketball at Riverside, using specific moves, getting to their spots. It's just going to be an interesting game to see. I know last year, Riverside remembers that region championship game at Riverside to see who could be co-region champs with Wade Hampton. So I know those Riverside guys in the back of their mind, they're going to be coming out for it because these two teams have been going at it for the past 2 years, I would say. Moving on, Lawrence, tied for 3rd place right now. They've been coming up a little short lately. I know they beat Wade Hampton last Friday, I believe, but lost to Greer early in the week, then lost to Eastside this past Friday. But they're keeping it competitive. Last year it was pretty bad all the time, but this year they're keeping it competitive. And I really think they can take another win outside of just beating Wade Hampton twice. They're keeping it competitive. I feel like they need to keep the games close so then down the stretch maybe they can pounce or something like that. But they're playing solid. Eastside, they should win their game. I believe they should win their game this Tuesday versus Wade Hampton. It's the game on Friday I'm looking forward to where they play Riverside. These two teams, they're not exactly fighting for the same position in the seeding, but it's Eastside versus Riverside, classic rivalry. Riverside did get the best of them this past week, but I think Eastside will be hungry. And they're playing at Riverside, but nonetheless, these two teams, same area, their fans are going to show up. But that basically concludes it. The last thing I have to say for that region, Wade Hampton's simply been struggling recently. Hasn't been pretty, but I hope they can turn around in some way, get a win somewhere, somewhere in region. They can, pounce on a team early, get a lead or something, hoping for the best over there. But, I'm excited for this week. These Tuesday games, definitely some big ones in the region. And I know a lot of these coaches, players, everyone's really locked in for these games. And I'm ready to see who can come out on top. But with all that being said, Musa Marathi, Get Buckets Podcast. Sirs will be coming soon. Peace.